It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing real good.
Looks like we're in a different setup than normal, even on when we're on a drive. This looks like a different vehicle.
This is my wife's Jeep and not my car. So there you go.
There we go. Makes sense. All right. I want to kick off today's episode talking about a player that we had already talked about when we found out this player was coming in for a visit, but he was actually not here for his visit. And while we talked about them taking the quarterback position more seriously, and because of that, us having to take that idea more seriously, I don't know that we necessarily talked about the idea of specifically Shaduer Sanders being that serious, just because we didn't know that we don't feel like he's going to get to 21. Are they really going to trade up without having that second round pick? But just for the sake of this being a real possibility here, what do we make of Shaduer Sanders as a player, and how do you think that he would fit into Arthur Smith's offense?
Yeah, I think like we should take this seriously. Like, I mean, he's doing Kay Adams' show from the Pittsburgh airport, like making it very clear to like put it out there that he's in Pittsburgh. Like sometimes these visits are like kind of hush hush. This one's been the exact opposite of that. This one's basically been like, yeah, let the whole world know I'm going to see the Steelers. And I don't know that anybody's asked him yet this, but like, why? Why would he even come to visit the Steelers picking 21st? Like, does he think there's a real possibility of them trading up? Does he think there's a real possibility of him falling to 21? I don't, but maybe he does. I don't know. There's got to be a reason. Maybe just like he thinks Mike Tomlin's a cool guy. I don't know. Maybe that could be that.
That's what I say. Is this another Tomlin effect thing? Like I could see that honestly.
Like that definitely could be possible. That like you know, 30 teams asked to talk to Shaduer Sanders. He said no to everybody that wasn't picking in the top 10 except for the Steelers. These guys can't go to 32 teams. Like there's only so many days you can take these visits. You literally cannot do them all. Like guys do have to pick about where they will go. It just seems like a strange choice for him. And so I think because of that and just how public they've been about it, like I think we should take it seriously. So let's talk about Shaduer Sanders, the player, first. He's a pretty interesting prospect. You know, I talked the other day, great question I got on Twitter, asking me to like rate this year's quarterbacks compared to last year's quarterbacks. And, you know, I did talk about him a little bit there, but just an interesting player. Kind of reminds me of Russell Wilson in some ways, where like the deep balls, this like big kind of high on target, not gonna like wow you with his arm strength, but still like gets it there and gets to where it's gonna be. Not necessarily the guy that's gonna throw those like 15-yard far sideline laser beams in terms of arm strength, but very accurate. Keeps the football on his in his team. The running around is the difference, I think, now when you like compare like what young Russell Wilson with the Seahawks looked like compared to Shaduer Sanders, in that it has not gone well for Sanders. He's athletic enough. I wouldn't call him like a crazy athlete, but he doesn't navigate the pocket very well. He runs into a lot of sacks. He runs into pressure. And so there's definitely some like give and take, but man, I think if you're getting Russell Wilson, and like I'm not saying like they're the same player, but like that caliber of quarterback, to me, that's a top 15 draft pick. And that's where I kind of have him graded. And that's why I think if he falls to 21, it's a no freaking brainer for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think the one concern that I have, and this isn't me like trying to take away from his own, awareness in the pocket and him putting a lot of pressure and taking sacks on his own that shouldn't be credited necessarily to the offensive line, but also the offensive line wasn't very good. And for me, I just wonder more so about his transition to the NFL. Is he going to be able to shake some of those bad habits that were created at Colorado because of how bad that offensive line was that he was playing behind? Like that, first and foremost, is what comes to mind to me, because I know a lot of people talk about the arm strength and stuff like that. People kind of, in my opinion, a little bit underrated deep ball, not necessarily like, I understand what you're saying in terms of the velocity, but like people talk about like make it seem like he's like a check down merchant. over 15% of his throws last year went over for over 20 yards, which is more than Cam Ward. I don't think anybody's talked about Cam Ward being some like short yardage, mid-range merchant, and very successful in like everything besides comeback and slant routes. Didn't throw a ton of like corners, outs, slants. I'm actually looking at right now Corey Kinnan, who I should definitely give credit for putting this out there. The charting that he did for Shaduer Sanders 2024 season is what I'm looking at here when I'm referencing a lot of these points here. But yeah, Shaduer has the look to me of, I think he's like a borderline first round pick for me right now, but certainly at pick 21 for a QB needy team would certainly make a lot of sense. I don't love the player. I think the question that I have is like, he's not an anomaly guy. And again, like, I'm not saying that like you need to always be chasing that, because then you're probably never going to throw darts at other players. But like within the AFC, when you look at all the aliens that we're going up against, is Shaduer Sanders good enough to compete with those guys?
I think he is. I think you would have to have a good team around him. It's not like he's going to be the guy that drags you to the Super Bowl. Otherwise, he'd be the first overall pick, or number 2 or number 3 for sure. I think like the fact that the Browns of all teams are not jumping at this guy should tell you that there is definitely some question about like, how good is he, right? Like how much can you rely on him? But I think if you're talking about in the late first round, like I think he's a quarterback that if you build a good team around him, can win you a Super Bowl. I would say very similar to a Russell Wilson, a Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying he's necessarily those guys, but like that level of quarterback is what you're getting here, I think. And I think he comes with a fairly high floor as well. Like, yeah, there's some things to clean up, but even if he keeps running around and keeps running into sacks, like it's not the end of the world. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton. Like his issues are not deal breakers for me. There's things he can get better at, but I don't think that he's like unplayable the way he is either.
No, absolutely. Specifically, we were talking and having a little bit of a conversation before we started recording about like the person too, because I think there's a lot of people that like don't want him just because of like his last name and thinking that he's going to bring a lot of baggage in that respect. And like you said a couple days ago when we were talking about it, like more attention, sure, but that doesn't, it's only a negative thing if you let it become a negative thing. That's exactly how Tomlin, I'm sure, would say it too. Actually talked to somebody today that was able to meet him today at the facility when he was there and got to have an interaction with him, and they said he comes off very well. Like he seems like a really cool dude. But you mentioned to me you've heard only good things as well, so I would like touch on that part too, like the person that they'd be getting as well, not just the player.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good leader, a really well liked guy from everything I've heard. He was at the Shrine Bowl this year, and like he didn't participate, and like that's kind of a big time move. But I talked to a couple of guys that were there that were like, "Hey, he was just like one of the guys. Like it's not like you were like, oh my god, that's Shaduer Sanders. Like it was like he was everybody else, you know." And so I think there's this perception that you're getting Deion's kid, but like that doesn't mean that he's like Joey Porter Jr. is nothing like Joey Porter. Nothing. Like, could not be less like Joe. Like, just because he's Deion's kid doesn't mean you're getting another Deion. Like, I think like people have this mixed conception about like his personality, and not to say that like there's something wrong with being Deion, but like I think people just assume that's what you're getting, and that's not the case here. I think he's a very different guy than his father, and as most people are, and I think. I really do think he's someone that you can look at as a leader of a team and say, this is someone who will say, follow me and get it done. And like, I think he has positive off the field attributes for a quarterback. Now, there's definitely some concerns here too that we've talked about, but the concerns are not with him, right? Like the concerns are you drafting his father too? Like that's the big concern for me.
Yeah, which I feel like in that respect, Pittsburgh, because of the presence of Mike Tomlin, is a good spot for him to go. Like, I think that he could kind of navigate that water, or basically make it not even something that comes about because of just his presence. Like, I think if he were to go somewhere with like a first time head coach or something like that, who Deion just has like no relationship with, does not know at all, there could maybe be an issue where like he would be, making certain demands or potentially have more of a presence than he should for just the father of a player on the team. But because of Mike Tomlin's presence in Pittsburgh, I feel like this is one of the spots where, from that standpoint, it would make more sense.
I can absolutely see some coaches being like, no, how, no way, we're not taking this guy because I don't want to deal with that. Not because of the player, right? But like Mike Tomlin's not going to say that. Mike Tomlin's not going to be afraid of coaching Deion Sanders' son. Like, he's just not. First of all, the idea of Mike Tomlin being afraid of anything is actually like hilarious to anyone that knows. Like, I don't think the man knows what fear is. But like, I think there's a like he you remember his pivot podcast interview with Ryan Clark. He was like, I'm not going to run away from coaching. That's just coaching. That's just doing his job. Like, he's not going to say, no, I'm not going to go do my job. Like, it's just not his personality. So I can't imagine the Steelers being one of those teams. I do think his level of security with himself and his position will be a good situation for Shedeur because, like you said, it's not some young rookie head coach that Deion can just browbeat into like doing whatever he wants. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, Mike Tomlin's he's not going to be influenced by whatever the famous father of his quarterback would think. Like, that's just not how he's going to operate.
And interestingly enough, one of the teams that we've talked about, like potentially being the floor of that, the Saints, they have a first-time head coach in Kellen Moore, and that's one of those situations where, like, I kind of wonder. Like, Kellen Moore's been an OC, obviously, and been around for a little bit. Was obviously the OC for a Super Bowl winning team last year, but like again, completely different situation. I just wonder if, from that standpoint, it makes Pittsburgh a little bit more attractive to them. And it's interesting because, how
about like Kevin Stefanski, a coach kind of on the ropes, right? Like to me, like that's the one where I can really see why he would be like, I don't want to do this. We don't want to start 1-3 and then have my head coach, have the coach of the father of my quarterback in his press conference getting questions about why the Browns stink and your son ain't playing. Like that's like I can understand why some situations coaches wouldn't want to deal with it, but Mike Tomlin's not going to be that guy.
Stupid thought, like, because this typically only happens during the top of the draft, and like Shedeur isn't gonna just want to take significantly less money in this way. But like we've seen guys in the past, like, and especially like more so talked about than we've actually seen at practice, where guys like kind of force their way to a certain spot. And I know that like there was thought of Deion doing that before. Because someone mentioned this to me, any credence to the idea of like Pittsburgh being a preferred destination potentially for the Sanders family, and like that could play into it?
I see. We're going to talk about this later too. The slotting money means much. That like you're leaving millions on the table to fall from 10 to 21, millions and millions. And so like I have a hard time seeing that. I have a real hard time seeing that. Now maybe if it's like a trade up, sure. How are the Steelers trading up? They already don't have a second. I think a trade back is more likely than a trade up, with half a dozen sort of big time needs. Like, yeah, they need a quarterback, but they need 2 defensive tackles. They need a running back. They have 1 wide receiver with an NFL catch under contract beyond 2025. They have a 34-year-old starting cornerback, and we don't even know who the starting slot is. Like, there's a lot of needs there. You're going to want, to trade up to 10, you're talking about trading the third plus like next year's third, or maybe the third plus next year's comp pick third. Like, that's a lot. And then like, and then are you signing Aaron Rodgers too? Like, that's the other part of this. Is that like, now Shedeur, I don't think would be the kind of player that would necessarily be like harmed by sitting a year. He's pretty much the normal age. He played 4 years of college football, and he did play a lot because he started at Jackson State before transferring to Colorado, but he does only have a couple of years of Power 5 experience. I don't think it would be like the worst thing in the world for him developmentally to sit for a season. But like, is Aaron Rodgers going to be okay with the Steelers drafting a quarterback in the first round? Like,
maybe that's why he hasn't. Maybe he's waiting to see. Like, they're waiting.
Whole reason he's not going to Miami because he doesn't want to sit behind JJ McCarthy or have him looking over his shoulder. How would Shaduer Sanders be any different?
Yeah, I don't know. And that's why we, pretty much rolled out Minnesota, but like, then we'd be creating the same situation here in Pittsburgh. I don't know. But I'm starting to get, I don't know if you can speak to this at all. I wonder if there is like a bit of, if they can get Shaduer Sanders like forget Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we sat there in January and said, okay, let's look at the quarterbacks, let's look at every free agent, let's look at every draft pick, and let's see, is there a way the Steelers can upgrade their quarterback position? We looked far and wide, and we said the answer was no. That Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were the best options out there, and everybody else was worse. But we were also saying that Shaduer Sanders was not going to be a realistic option for the Steelers. And I think if he is a realistic option for the Steelers somehow, that does change that math. Like, Shaduer Sanders is an upgrade at the quarterback position. He is someone they can build around. I'm still very skeptical of how this can happen, but I think there's enough going on that we should start to take it seriously.
Sure. You mentioned something. Do you have anything else on Shaduer Sanders? I guess I should ask that first because I don't want to.
No, I do wonder about, like, Aaron Rodgers in the draft. I kind of feel like I doubt the Steelers are the Steelers aren't the ones waiting, right? I mean, I think they've made that pretty clear with their statements at owners' meetings last week, 2 weeks ago now, 2 weeks ago, whatever. Yeah, no, it was last. I don't know. The days in the off season, they don't mean anything.
That's right.
It's Tuesday every day. Like, knowing more about who is being drafted when helps the Steelers. Like, that's another reason for them not to be in a big rush. You know, if as we get closer to the draft, there will be more teams that are more sure about what they're doing, and they will have a better idea of whether or not Shaduer Sanders is going to be available. Like, they will know more next Thursday than they do right now about whether or not they're going to be able to get Shaduer Sanders, and if that's realistic or not, and exactly how much it's going to cost to get there. So that's like another reason for them to not really be in a rush if they're considering this as a serious alternative to Rodgers.
Yeah, no, that's a good thought. and from that standpoint, they could spit. I wonder if they're spinning that way to Aaron as well. Like, hey, this is why we're not in a rush. We're gaining more clarity in terms of what the draft's going to look like at quarterback, and this is who we feel good about in these spots. And if you don't want to sign here, fine, we'll go in this direction. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But
this
you mentioned
very well could be, and I think I brought this up, but I was on the radio in Green Bay, and they were like, they thought that Rodgers was going to sign on the first night of the draft just to, like, one up Green Bay. But, like, it could be that, and also just the Steelers being okay with, all right, we'll see who's there at 21, and maybe we announce our first round pick and that we signed Aaron Rodgers.
There we go.
Wouldn't that be? Could you imagine?
Would make for an exciting draft night.
Your reaction? Goodell walks out on the stage. Before we make the 21st pick, Pittsburgh Steelers would like to announce they've signed free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers. And then 250,000 people boo in unison. I mean, that would be fairly spectacular.
ESPN and the Pat McAfee Show would also like to announce a 1-year extension of Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. And then the selection's made.
Yeah, and then they pick Walter Nolan or something like that. This is completely innocuous selection.
Walter Nolan would have been a good transition too, but our man here gave us $10, so we got to get to this one first.
Right.
F Dan 4824 said, "I'm a recent convert to being a Steelers fan. Love your show. I understand the implications of drafting someone in the first round because of the 5th-year option, big contract. Can you please explain the difference in value and contracts between the remaining rounds, though? How much real money difference is there between, say, a second-round pick as opposed to a late-round pick?"
Yeah, that's a good question.
Welcome to Steelers Nation, by the way.
Yeah, I want to know where you came from.
Yeah.
Like, who were you a fan of before? Where are you from? Why were you a fan of that team? Well, I need the story here. Like, you can't just drop, I'm a recent convert as a Steelers fan. Like, what's the scenario here?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like I know for, like, Browns fans, right? Like, the Deshaun Watson thing made some people leave the fan base. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's, like, another team.
Did you, like, inherit another team by marriage? Did you move to Pittsburgh and then just, like, hey, I'm here, so okay? Or did you not have a team and then you picked the Steelers? That it's possible too. I want to know. I want the backstory here. The answer to the question is lots and lots of money. The difference between, like, a 2nd-round pick and a 6th-round pick is millions and millions of dollars over a 4-year contract. So you can look at, the salaries. They're on the internet. If you go over the cap and click on their draft pick slot calculator, you can see how much they're all worth, and then you multiply that by 4. Now, it is a much bigger difference between the first round and the second round than it is between the second and third, because the 5th year for the first round picks. So that's like the big jump. But there is still a significant difference between second round and third round and fourth round, so on and so forth, that you definitely have an account for. So, I mean, that's why you see things like positions that don't often get picked in the first round will go in the second round. Like, you see a lot of running backs in the second round. You see a lot of linebackers in the second round. You see a lot of centers in the second round. Safeties. Those are positions that teams like don't want to use first round draft picks on. You will see that. But then you will also see like that happen again as you go through the draft, where like you'll see a lot in like the third round and the fourth round will be like a second wave of like edge rushers, wide receivers, and tackles. Like all the rest of those guys that are any good at all are going to go in like the third or fourth round because they bring that positional value. And then you get into the like fifth and sixth round, and it's almost, not to say exclusively, like there are some like big swing and miss type prospects that are left. But like when you get to the fifth and sixth and seventh round, it's a lot of running backs, linebackers, guards, like all the non-premium positions are going to go there basically, because you don't have that the positional value play in as much when you get the later rounds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He mentioned the 5th year thing on here, and I was just curious, like in your time covering the team, talking to people, just like how, I don't know how I want to word this, how coveted that is. And what I mean by that is like, would teams ever talk about like maybe this player we value more as a second rounder, but we want the 5th year on him, so we took him in the first round as opposed to waiting? Or like, has that ever come up? Or like, I guess I'm just, the base of the question is how valuable is a 5th year option to teams, do you think, really?
I think situationally it can be very valuable. There are some guys where you really want that 5th year on. There are other guys where it doesn't really matter. Because, you're saving some money at the front when you go to a second round pick, assuming your picks are 30 picks apart. Your first rounder might cost you, over the course of his 4 years, 10 million, and your second rounder is only going to cost 8. So like, yeah, you don't get the option, but you get a different kind of benefit. So I think there's the one position that it definitely matters is quarterback. That's why there are no second round quarterbacks anymore. Like if you're a second round quarterback, you will go in the first round, because teams will value the 5th year option at that position that much. Especially if you're a quarterback that is not like an older prospect, or has some kind of developmental work where you're thinking about drafting a guy and not starting him right away. Like for me, Michael Penix last year had a second or third round grade, and he goes in the first round. They don't have any intention of starting him last year. They just got Kirk Cousins. Like that's why they wanted to use a first round pick on him, because they want the 5th year, right? That's what makes it valuable. I still think that's honestly a fireable draft pick, but like that's why those things happen. That's why I don't think, even though I have like a third round grade on him, like I'd expect Jackson Dart to go in the first round. That's why I don't think it's crazy that Jalen Milroe is going to the draft. And I said on this podcast in January that Jalen Milroe is going to sneak into the first round. Yeah. And I'm sticking to it. I still think it's going to happen. He's also my quarterback 3, which I'm less confident in happening. But yeah, I think that's the one position where if you have a second round grade on a quarterback, just take him in the first.
My take on Milroe's draft selection is it's going to be a team that he's going to be picked at a slot where it's not the team that currently holds that pick has.
Yeah, it's going to be like the Browns trading up 3 spots.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, would be a very, very good draft pick for them.
Speaking of draft picks and the idea of gaining capital, Gary Morgan here said, is there any part of you that would trade Fitz and Watt for a crap ton of picks over the next couple of years. Feels like a faster path to getting a quarterback and affordable talent around them. A very hot button topic right now, at least as it pertains to TJ Watt. We talked about the future of Minkah Fitzpatrick not really being guaranteed after 2025, but Alan, this is I feel like it could be an interesting question for each of us to answer, just because, like, obviously the fan perspective here and you covering the team, there's no emotional attachment on your side to either of these players. So what's your thought?
I actually don't think it's gonna. I think this is something where actually a lot of fans just play too much Madden. Like you cannot win a trade that involves sending out a player of the caliber of TJ Watt. You can't do it. You could never get enough draft picks. It's not possible to replace the value that you're losing when you lose the player. It's just, if your intention is to be bad on purpose, you can tank, and trading TJ Watt lets you tank. That is clearly not the Steelers' intention. There's no other way to do it. If you are trading TJ Watt, you are tanking. You should not be signing any of your current players to new contract extensions. You should be tearing it down, and that would be part of a 5-year process, because that's how long it would take. And by the way, no NFL team has ever successfully done that and won a Super Bowl on the other side of it. It's never been done. It doesn't happen. Either you just slowly build up, or you're bad for a very long time, and then you get good. Like, it's not done. It's not realistic. It happens in video games. It doesn't happen in real life.
What about Minkah?
I think Minkah is more interesting because he is clearly not playing to the level of his contract. And I think that, like, it's not unreasonable to think about trading Minkah Fitzpatrick. I just don't have any real idea what the market would be for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that's
the
thing.
Like,
it's like
you're selling low.
Yeah.
Which is generally not what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I would not trade Minkah this offseason. But if the plan is the plan we've talked about for a while, trading up in 26 and making the big move.
Yeah.
And somebody is interested in Minkah Fitzpatrick as part of that, and he does, let's say he plays a little bit better, but not a lot better this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would have my interest there. I think there's a possibility there. I just think, like, you're never getting TJ Watt back in draft picks. We had this conversation with Carter on Locked On. Like, even if you had the number 1 overall pick for like 3 years in a row, you would be more likely to lose that trade than to win it.
Yeah. I'm certainly more intrigued about the Minkah side of this. And I guess my question would be, like, I would certainly listen, but I'm skeptical that you would get back what I would need back in order to do it.
Yeah, like, would you trade Minkah for a 2nd-round pick right now? I don't think I would.
Do you think the team would offer a 2nd right now?
I'm not sure, but, like, that's the thing. Is, like, I'm not even sure they could get a 2nd, and I don't think I would take it.
Yeah, it's really hard to find the value that lines up.
But now, like, if next year the trade is like, okay, let's say they're picking 20 next year, and they feel like they got to get to 4, and okay, you could trade 20 Minkah and a 3rd to get your quarterback. I think it's probably worth it. That's the thing. The 2nd-round pick is not getting you your quarterback this year, but maybe next year. I would be open to it. Yeah. I don't think you're getting a 2nd.
The TJ conversation's tougher for me just because, like, unlike Mink, I mean, I appreciate everything that Mink has done here. Obviously, his jersey's right behind me. My other podcast that I host around the 4 and 2 was the first Pittsburgh podcast that he appeared on. Nice little notch under our belt over there. So I have a soft spot for Mink, obviously, but just in terms of, like, the player didn't start his career in Pittsburgh, unlike TJ. I want TJ to be a 1 helmet guy, and I understand he hasn't had the same team accolades that the guys that we just saw in the big night at close out, Sidney Crosby, Geno, and Chris Letang had. But those guys all wearing the same sweater for their entire career has meant so much to me, and I want TJ to be that same thing for just the same thing with Cam Hayward. Like, I want them to be 1 helmet guys. I don't want to see him play anywhere else. Like, as maybe stupid as that is from an actual, like, business perspective, down the road, if his play does fall off and he's making $40+ million as a wash player, but it's more important to me at this point as I sit here right now, to see him play only in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform.
Yeah, I don't care about that really. Like, I don't have any feelings about that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, because there's been like I mean, Franco Harris played for the Seahawks.
Yep.
That stuff doesn't bother me, especially if like guys want to keep playing late in their career, and the team makes a good decision to say, you know what, you're not worth this anymore. Go ahead, finish it out somewhere else. You'll still be a Steeler for life. Whatever, I'm fine with that. But you're talking about a player who's still very much in the prime of his career here. Like, it is not like TJ Watt is washed up.
Do you think a lot of people are the reason that like there is willingness to trade him, other than just people feeling like the Steelers aren't, legit Super Bowl contenders right now and won't be with or without him regardless? Do you think do you think there's some concern about like how he played individually the last 5 weeks, the lack of production, and thinking maybe that's going to continue?
I think there's a significant trend of not being healthy at the end of the year that I think we should probably be concerned about. I mean, he got hurt in the Chiefs game? No.
It was the Chiefs? I thought it was before that.
Before that.
Maybe it was the Eagles game.
Eagles game.
When he
it was the Eagles
forced
game.
the fumble early, but yeah.
Yeah, he got hurt. And he clearly wasn't the same after that. But he misses the Buffalo playoff game last year or the year before. That's not what you want. I think that's concerning. And so, like, look, I don't want to give him a 5-year deal, but I don't have any problem with 3/120 for TJ Watt right now. Sign me up, please.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think I know that you spent your morning rush talking about it. As we sit here right now, I don't have any level of concern. Maybe as time goes on and more stuff happens, I should. But as we sit here right now, I'm not putting any credence into that meaning much. His Instagram story, that is, with Rap talking about it and stuff like that. But
I was a little surprised Rap actually talked about it, to be honest. But yeah,
I mean, and very clearly, just like giving an opinion. Like I don't know. I don't know that was. I'm not telling Rap how to do his job or anything like that. It's just like, from my perspective, not something that I would have.
The problem is that people then go with like Rappaport said.
Right. Yeah.
The talks aren't going well. I don't even think I don't even think I would categorize what has happened so far as talks. Sure, they've touched base, but like, this is not something that's been a front burner issue for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe he's just trying to get it to be a front burner issue, which is perfectly okay. Maybe he's just trying to inject some urgency into the process.
I got to break the fourth wall here because Pat just sent me something. All I saw was it was a tweet from Ian Rappaport, and it said WTF with a bunch of question marks, and I'm like, oh my God. So I hurried up and opened it, and it was just his tweet about Isaiah Bond with his legal troubles or whatever. Like, what? Come on. But anyways, just I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God. Anyways, we got a lot more questions that we can dive into tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday already, so we'll have a DB on the pod, of course. But until then, Alan, tell the people where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account in all those places. SteelersNow.com is where the words live. Go there and read them so I can get paid. And sign up for SN Plus, and you get no ads. Plus, yeah.
You know what?
We just do the deuce, but
yeah, TJ's got this. We're gonna throw up this. If you are subscribed to SN Plus, drop it in the comments so I can start putting everybody's name up on here, individually. I'll give you a shout out every once in a while. I can't remember who I just took our guy off there. He was up there for like 4 days getting a shout out, but I want to start, a rotating group here of people that are subscribed to SN Plus, just to show our appreciation for them doing so. So if you are subscribed to SN Plus, let us know in the YouTube comments here and we'll make that happen. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit us in the comments with that or a question for a future episode. I said I want to talk about Walter Nolan, but I'm actually glad that we didn't, because I know DB, that's one of the guys he's been talking about a lot. So great topic tomorrow to dive into talking about him. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Apple, Spotify, doesn't matter. Anywhere else, just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.